Yeah, I know. This is a really strange conversation to be having because we initially had ourselves the rumors from Elliot Friedman saying that it would make sense, and then we had Elliot Friedman backtracking that statement and saying, okay, even though I thought it would make sense, this is not going to happen, and now we have other outlets that are talking about the thing too. Let's talk about Jakob CHYCHRUN, and let's talk about the Edmonton Oilers, because when it comes to the biggest name on the trade market at the moment, Arizona Coyotes defenseman Jakob CHYCHRUN. He's a 2016 first-round pick who made the NHL right out of the gate, despite being a pick in the teens. A big, strong left-handed defenseman. He can score goals. He was the top goal guy amongst all defensemen in the NHL last season. However, because he's on Arizona, things have been off to a really rough start. We've been talking about CHYCHRUN for weeks now, and when it comes to potential trade candidates, the one that was probably the most interesting in my opinion, but alas, the one that we did not talk about on the channel yet, was indeed that Edmonton Oilers squad. Now, I initially didn't talk about Edmonton because we had ourselves a whole bunch of rumors regarding other teams that I thought were also pretty interesting, which is why we kind of just, beat around the bush when it comes to the Oilers. But don't get me wrong, just because there wasn't a conversation on this YouTube channel about the Oilers and CHYCHRUN, it doesn't mean that there wasn't a conversation going on at all. Because when it comes to the Jeff Marek show, we had ourselves what was Jeff Marek. Obviously, it's his show. He's got himself a spot on the show. As well as Elliot Friedman talking about the Oilers and Jakob CHYCHRUN. Here is the transcript. Marek and Friedman on discussing possible defenseman options for the Oilers. If not Jakob CHYCHRUN, do you look at Shane Gostisbehere? I know he is a different animal, though, Marek says. Friedman replies, for what Edmonton needs, you are looking at Jakob CHYCHRUN. Now, Gostisbehere, where the heck does he come from? He is also on the Arizona Coyotes. He's actually doing a lot better statistically when it comes to point production than CHYCHRUN is, but of course, Shane Gostisbehere is kind of a defensive black hole. Jakob CHYCHRUN, while not producing as much as Gostisbehere this season, is a lot better overall in the eyes of many hockey fans. So that's kind of why Friedman is laying it out right here. Even though Gostisbehere is producing points, do the Oilers really need more guys who can produce points? I don't really know, but defensive depth, defensive efficiency, strong defensive own zone play. CHYCHRUN provides that, and when he's at his best, he is doing that as well as scoring 20 plus goals a year. In a full 82-game season, of course, because last season he had 18 goals in the limited sample that was played. However, Friedman also talked about in his 32 Thoughts article that even though he mentioned that he thought that Edmonton would make a perfect choice for a Jakob CHYCHRUN destination, he says a few sources have told him it is likely not going to happen that way. So, yeah, I guess the idea of CHYCHRUN going over to the oil town is shut down. In fact, we had ourselves Bob Stouffer who said similar things. I have people asking about Jakob CHYCHRUN. He's a good defenseman, but in my opinion, it does not make sense right now. Darnell Nurse is the number one left-handed defenseman. Duncan Keith is the veteran second left-handed defenseman on the short term. And then you have yourselves Philip Broberg, Markus Niemelainen, and Dmitry Samorukov all being big left-handed D, percolating and being cost-controlled. Now, this tweet was met with a lot of criticism. Okay, does that not mean that Jakob CHYCHRUN would not improve your team and he would be a better option than a Duncan Keith or whoever? Because Duncan Keith, I know Duncan Keith has his fans, but come on. Nevertheless, though, even though we had ourselves the rumors of the CHYCHRUN Oiler thing being shut down, we had ourselves some more conversation going about it. This is a piece on The Athletic written by Alan Mitchell. I'll leave a link in the description to this article over here. Low tide. If the Oilers add a big deadline asset, Philip Broberg will be the ask. This article was back on the 22nd, so go ahead and read that. The link is in the description, as we noted. But Spectre's Hockey of a few days ago on December 23rd goes over and articulates what exactly it is Mitchell is saying. How does this relate back to CHYCHRUN? Well, this is what is written. Alan Mitchell believes the Oilers will have to part with a promising young player if they attempt to pursue someone like Arizona's Jakob CHYCHRUN or Chicago's Marc-Andre Fleury in the trade market. That player is Philip Broberg, whom Mitchell considers NHL ready and destined to play a feature role in the big league. Chosen 8th overall by the Oilers in 2019, the 20-year-old Broberg is a smooth-skating two-way defenseman currently playing for the Oilers' AHL affiliate in Bakersfield. Now, Spectre's note goes out there and says, Mitchell points out the pressure of spent picks and no cap room. It means that the Oilers would have to part with Broberg if they hope to acquire real talent before the March trade deadline. Whatever transpires over the next couple of months could determine if they're prepared to sacrifice a promising piece of their future for immediate help. And so now you take a look at things with a little bit of a different lens. It's no longer JAKOB CHYCHRUN going to the Oilers over here, because Philip Broberg is one of the guys that's going to be out here, maybe already taking up a spot in this team, thus invalidating the need for a CHYCHRUN. But what about making a trade here? Philip Broberg, if we go over his profile over here, we have talked about Broberg a few times on the channel before. The recent time was a video where we discussed why I was wrong about Broberg and how all the concerns that I had about him in 2019 kind of withered away as time went on, obviously, because development is a thing and prospects go out there and fix holes in their games as they get older. But when it comes to Philip Broberg, at his best, he is a really strong puck-rushing defenseman. Great stride, great mobility. He moves around the ice insanely well, especially for a guy who is 6'4". But Philip Broberg went out there in his draft-eligible year playing such an inconsistent game in his own zone, and he wasn't really able to capitalize on the talents that he had in the Allsvenskan, so I was really cautious when thinking about the idea of drafting a Philip Broberg. But the Oilers did that anyway. They took him 8th overall in the 2019 draft, as we had noted, and as time has gone on, Broberg has gone out there and really fixed a lot of the things in his game that held him back. This season in the AHL, he's got 11 points in 15 games played. He had 8 played with the Oilers, the regular Oilers, and he had 1 assist. But everybody in Edmonton is kind of raving about how good Broberg has been development-wise the past few months. And as a result, it's really starting to give a conversation as to whether or not that number 1, number 2 defenseman ceiling that he had back in 2019 is a lot more likely now than it was back then. Because even back then, we all kind of knew he was talented. He was really, really good. It's just you didn't really know if he would fill out the rest of his hockey perceiving mind and allow himself to be the best version of himself. During international tournaments, he could go out there and just dominate the competition because he's playing against kids. But when he played against men, that's when things really started to become a problem in his own zone when it came to defensive reaction time, defensive decision making, and stuff like that. But hey, he's gotten better now. So, all of a sudden, it's no longer one of these guys that has the tools but not the toolbox. He is slowly crafting himself a toolbox month after month, and that toolbox is getting more and more properly equipped with the tools that he does possess. But when it comes to the development of a Broberg, is that enough to go out there and say, okay, he's good. I like Broberg. I like the way he's developed. Is this player a good enough piece to depart with if we want to acquire a JAKOB CHYCHRUN? Assume the Arizona Coyotes are entertaining that offer and they say yes. Okay, it's Broberg, it's another prospect, and it's a first and something, maybe another defenseman that is already on the team. I don't really know if you need to do that, but still. Imagine it is Broberg and a few other things for CHYCHRUN. Do you do this trade if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan? Do you want to go out there and sacrifice the extended long-term potential of a Philip Broberg in exchange for a guy like JAKOB CHYCHRUN, who is already locked down at $4.6 million till 2024-2025? He will be 28 years old, or 27, 28 years old when that contract expires. So he's going to be probably in the prime of his career if he is not already there. And if you assume he's going to get better than he was when he was 22, 23 years old, there is a lot to look forward to in CHYCHRUN's game as well. As we noted, goal scoring, defensive responsibility, two-way play. He is strong, he's physical, he's all these things. He is so good that for me personally, I'd rather play JAKOB CHYCHRUN in dire extreme moments in the game rather than Darnell Nurse, but that's just kind of me, so yeah, I'm a very big believer in CHYCHRUN. When it comes to the idea of trading away a Broberg for a CHYCHRUN, would you do it? Because I know a lot of people have super high expectations of Broberg, especially after seeing the development that he has had. It's just a question as to whether or not you want to go all in now, or you want to wait for a Broberg to become 24, 25 years old and spread his wings a little bit more in the NHL. It all depends on the timeline of everybody else that you have, right? Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Assume everybody's going to be here, and assume the rest of the supporting staff is here too. You can't guarantee that Puljujarvi is going to keep on going up. You can't guarantee that Yamamoto is going to keep going down. You can't guarantee goaltending. You can't guarantee a lot of things. But right now, the Oilers are not that bad of a team. Is this the year to go out there and start sacrificing future for now and say, okay, screw it. Broberg, other stuff, give us CHYCHRUN. We want this player. He's going to make our team better. Let's go ahead and do that. All the rumors from Friedman, etc., said that they don't believe Ken Holland is going to go out there and do that. But if you were in charge, if you were the guy to go out there and make this trade proposal and try to make things work, would you do it like this? And hey, before we go out with the outro, we haven't even discussed the idea of Broberg even heading over to Arizona. Having a Broberg-Soderstrom pairing 1-2 punch of Swedish defensemen sounds really, really good. Oliver Ekman-Larsson was a very good Swedish defenseman in Arizona, so having two of them in Soderstrom and Broberg in the long term sounds like a very good plan to me. But either way, talk to me in the comments if you're a Coyotes or an Oilers fan. What are your thoughts about Broberg? What are your thoughts about CHYCHRUN? What are your thoughts about this proposal made by Alan Mitchell? Do you believe this assessment is accurate? If you were in charge of either of these teams, would you try to make this move? Let me know in the comments all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. Josh Rolson 99. And bye.